Chapter 7. A rather unusual misunderstanding. After standing up and testing his strength, Ethan found that both his power and witchcraft had advanced further, giving him astonishing explosive force. With a sudden burst of speed, he moved as fast as the pre-evolved Hornet Beasts, leaving the elves in awe. Looking at the evolved Hornet Beasts, now the size of fists, and feeling the changes in his internal witchcraft, Ethan couldn't help but marvel at the Elves Life Spring Water. It was truly a precious treasure, far more potent than consuming a few magical beast blood pearls. How can I get this ancient summoner to stay and help us for the long term? The elven elder was filled with worry. Human slaver teams were becoming increasingly rampant, and the beautiful appearance of his people often made them prime targets. While the elven elder was deep in thought, a long-haired elf with a purple sandalwood bow on his back rushed in. "Elder, the dwarves have arrived with a large shipment of weapons." "Good, excellent. Invite them in quickly." Before the elder's words had fully left his mouth, a boisterous noise erupted from outside. "Elder, I'm dying of thirst. Hurry up and bring out some rum." A black-faced dwarf, no taller than Ethan's chest, swaggered in and threw his backpack on the ground before flopping onto a pale green bamboo chair. Despite his short stature, the dwarf was extremely muscular, with forearms thicker than the long-legged elf Sophia's thighs. Even lying down, he couldn't sit still, shifting his watermelon-sized behind, causing the chair to creak under the weight. Ethan couldn't help but wonder if the chair would collapse any second. "Sophia, we've been trekking through the mountains for an entire day. Can't you spare us a few cups of rum to quench our thirst?" The dwarf gave Sophia a pitiful look. "If not a couple, at least one. I haven't tasted a drop of alcohol for a whole month. Oh, I'm so miserable." "All right, Lumi, you drunkard. All you do is drink. Be careful or you might swallow your own tongue one day." Sophia chided, though she still poured the dwarf a cup of rum. She also poured a full glass for Ethan. After downing his cup in one go, Lumi noticed the full glass of rum in front of Ethan and was not pleased. "Sophia, that's not fair. You give your lover a full glass, while I barely get enough to wet my throat. Give me another." "Lover?" Hearing Lumi's words, Sophia turned red with a mix of embarrassment and anger. She twisted Lumi's dirty ear and stormed out, though she shyly glanced back at the unbothered Ethan before leaving, her face flushed. "Here, brother Lumi, have a drink." Ethan chuckled, offering the cup of rum in front of him when he saw Lumi struggling to extract the last drop from his own cup. Lumi didn't hesitate. He gulped down the entire glass in one go, like a pig gobbling up a ginseng fruit. After burping loudly, he gave Ethan a thumbs up. "Brother, you're a good one. Next time I'll treat you to some drinks, and we'll drink by the barrel." "You never change, Lumi." The elder smiled fondly at the dwarf's antics. "What weapons did your father send this time? Let's take a look." Lumi scratched his head, remembering his business. He loudly instructed his people to open all the bundles and let the elder inspect them. Ethan casually glanced at the goods. Aside from a few swords, most of the shipment consisted of iron armor and bows. Picking up a sword, Ethan felt it was slightly lighter than he expected. With a swift swing, he effortlessly cut through a tree branch as thick as a bowl, leaving a smooth cross-section. Clearly, the blade was sharp. Knocking on the sword produced a crisp, clear ring, indicating decent hardness and toughness. Certainly much better than his kitchen knives back home. Ethan had studied electronics in school but had been assigned to intern at a metalworks factory, a decision that made him question the old professor's logic. However, after more than a month of hands-on experience, he could at least roughly judge the hardness and toughness of steel. He never imagined that on this primitive continent, he would encounter steel of such quality, sparking his interest in the dwarves' iron ore and refining techniques. "Brother, take whichever weapon you like. Just treat me to a few drinks next time," Lumi said generously, patting Ethan on the shoulder. His blackened hand left a noticeable mark on Ethan's white shirt. However, if Lumi knew Ethan was mentally comparing his painstakingly crafted weapons to cheap kitchen knives sold on the streets for $10, he'd probably be furious enough to spit blood. Ethan subtly sidestepped Lumi's overly friendly advances and gently tapped the sword. Do you have more of this kind of iron ore? How about selling some to me? Through the memories of the Hornet Beasts, Ethan understood that this type of iron ore could serve as their food. The Hornet Beasts' teeth were incredibly sharp. Not only could they bite through stones, but they could also chew through iron. Consuming various metals would harden their scales even further. Although he still wasn't sure how he had ended up in this mysterious forest, Ethan knew that to survive in this ruthless environment, besides mastering the enigmatic witchcraft, the tamed Hornet Beasts would be his biggest asset. Strengthening them would be key to his survival. What? You only want iron ore? Lumi exclaimed in disbelief. Most people scrambled to buy weapons forged by his clan, but this was the first time anyone had requested raw iron ore. Brother, you're not planning to lug iron ore into battle and smash walls like a cave giant, are you? Lumi stared at Ethan for a long time, trying to figure out if he was joking. When he realized Ethan was serious, Lumi furrowed his brow. It wasn't that he was unwilling to sell, but he genuinely didn't know how to price it. Too high, and he'd feel awkward. After all, Ethan seemed close to Sophia, and he didn't want to offend anyone. Too low, and he wouldn't be able to justify it to his people back home. Seeing Lumi's dilemma, Ethan quickly understood the situation and smiled. He reached into his bag and took out 20 or so magical beast cores he had collected over the past few days. Here's a down payment. Of course, if you prefer, I can also trade you some fine wine later on. The forest was incredibly resource-rich, crystal-clear mountain spring water, abundant sunshine, and absolutely pure natural food. The conditions were perfect. Perhaps starting a distillery here wasn't such a bad idea. The mountain spring water alone was far superior to any brand-name mineral water back on Earth. After a few pleasantries, and with the Elven Elder's strong backing, Ethan managed to exchange 25 beast cores and a dozen barrels of rum for 2,000 cubic meters of premium iron ore. Even if he didn't go out hunting, it would be enough to keep his army of Hornet Beasts fed for at least half a month. People now had their own theories about Ethan's background. Most believed he came from wealth. To ordinary people, even getting their hands on a single weapon forged by the mountain dwarves would be a dream come true. But Ethan, on the other hand, only cared about buying large quantities of iron ore. He was either a madman or a noble from an unimaginably rich family, someone who had no interest in ordinary weapons. Moreover, a single low-level magical beast core was worth at least dozens of purple crystal coins, enough to support an average family of 5 for several years. Yet Ethan casually handed over 25 of them. Only someone from the major human aristocracy, perhaps from the capital, could have such audacity.